What's up, Digidestins? This is Kyle D, better known as RideMyAvatar, and we're only going to be here for another month in this space that I've created because I am actually moving to a house. So, guys, keep watching these videos, hitting those thumbs up. It helps support the channel, and hopefully this will help close in the gaps where I need to. And I'm excited for my new location. I'm gonna go over on what I'm gonna be changing up eventually, but I'm very excited to be going into my own house. So that's just big for me. I think it's going to be a lot of fun and big changes are ahead. But let's get into none other than just a glimpse at the meta. So let's get into the video, shall we? So tools are such a vital strat. Like digitalgateopen.com is a amazing resource tool, to be honest with you, especially for players that are trying to figure out, okay, what decks are kind of just doing well in a locals. I think this is going to be a very vital tool going in the future, especially once we get unification, that we are finally on BT21. This will give us a lot of data, and I'm really excited. I want to make a small suggestion, though. Can you just do by date, like a search option by date, so that you can lock in from, let's just say I need a week and I can find out what's doing well in a week. It would be a great research tool for the creator of, for Digigate, Digital Gate Open. I would really appreciate that. But outside of that, fantastic tool. And we're going to be covering some decks off of this as well. But another one that I use personally is Digimon CG Guide. This is such a fantastic tool because it gathers top decks from X, aka Twitter, and we can take a look at what's going on. Right now for JP, Red, Purple, and Digimon's pushing up with Royal Knights, which is showing what we are experiencing as well. But it also gives us weird decks that we haven't really seen. So we can pop up Dynasmon here, and this one was 318, but players want to see Dynasmon from time to time. So it's worth getting some information across the board, because even if it's just a small bit of locals, this one was an 8 players, which is above average for a lot of players. I think giving yourself a knowledge base of, oh, this is what Dynasmon's looking like, against Dukemon, any deck that can just do what this is trying to do, I think has a lot of potential. And, sometimes that's what we want to see, just some change up. Ho-Ho-Mon, this is Phoenixmon. Hasn't really done anything since the 7th, which is kind of crazy. But, Terrier Lop, which is Dog Bunny. This one is the 3v3 participations at Gaver Taverns. Ooh, when was the last? What? 319. I can't really use that. But it just gives you a good understanding of what you're expected here. Even with Leviamon, a lot of players are starting to learn to adapt with this deck and start doing well with it. Do I expect it to do high and big competitive events? Maybe not, but somebody's going to be crazy about doing this eventually. And I feel like more and more support gets added all the time, and eventually this deck's going to pop off. But with Digimon CG Guide, it's such a great universal tool that I love using it constantly. Now, another one that guys want to use is DigimonMeta.com. This one gives you some more information and vital resources, especially because it gathers from a bunch of places, and they kind of just funnel in here, which is kind of good to see, right? And you kind of can watch the dates a little bit before you click into them. But, I like that it's English. To be honest with you, we are combined with JP at this point. There is no 2.5 isn't a change up. It's BT20. Let's be honest. So stuff like that's important. But a deck we're going to look at first off was Blue Ancient Hybrid. I talked about this on yesterday's video I made, but looking at it now is that the deck has a lot going for it in a good way. I think it's still aggressive. It's still a punishing deck, especially because Ancient Garu is a very powerful card, being able to return something to your opponent's with the lowest level to their hand, and then when an effect adds a card to yours or your opponent's hand, your opponent adds the top card of their stack to their hand, which again is not bad at all. It's a scary combination because being able to remove security for free, I know they kind of get it as a resource, but sometimes just being able to chip away free damage is always vitally strong, to be honest. And you know, Ancient Garurumon hasn't really fallen off completely. It's just taken some time off, and I think meta has shifted, allow it to do a little bit of things that it wanted to. I feel like when it was against purple hybrid, it just could not keep up, but now that it can go wide, like the format's going wide again, this deck has some great advantages into that. Now again, we do have the Loogamon, this top 16 at the TAC games as well. I know a lot of players are like, well, my Takamikazuchi got taken out, so what am I going to do? Well, you can just revert back to Fenrir Luga, and it still showed that it could do some crazy shenanigans with that. You know, being able to update with Codecracker, Fang, and Hacker Judge, that mind link with the Alliance Piercing and Barrier gives your threat a little bit more sticking power, right? You know, that's super important in some matchups, right? I think at the end of the day, you have a lot going for you with this deck, and the deck really is strong. It just wasn't on the same level of OTK strat that Take was, you know. Now, again, we do have CrossHeart, so it's worth just seeing where they're coming from with CrossHeart, especially in this format and the economy. The restriction list is in place, so it's just good to see. I think with CrossHeart, there's some good vital information to take into account that, you know, ×7 superior mode, you don't really see this from time to time, but it's a great tool, and that too is kind of crazy to me. Return the Digimon cards of one of your opponent's Digimon to the bottom of the deck in any order. Return that Digimon to the bottom of the deck, and all your opponent's option security effects do not activate. So being able to attack in with no worries in the world is always very powerful. I like that they're using ×7 and EX6 all in all, because again, they're all treated as their requirements. So this one's treated as Shoutmon, this one's treated as Ballista, this one's treated as Dorumon, this one's treated as Sparrowmon, this one's treated as Starmon, giving them all uniquely new inheritables. So again, anything in your top end is not going to hate what you're doing, right? So, you know, Shoutmon EX6, all great value tools. So being able to give your thing rush, I know it's kind of useless with this one, because I know you got Shoutmon and Omnishout that's both giving rush, but it is options nonetheless. So being able to take in the account that you have a versatile top end with CrossHeart, and I know a lot of players are CrossHeart fans from the older sets, this deck still has a lot going for it. And I think with the only problem it runs into is Taomon. If there's not a heavy Taomon loop you're facing after and after, I think the deck actually kind of slaps for a good long while. Now again, we got Green Rusty. So it's been a hot second since we even heard Rusty Tyranno come into play, but it's kind of cute that we're getting to see Rusty Tyranno coming back. So this one's got Collision, Barrier, and Blocker. Digivolve 4, one of your opponent's Digimon. You know, this one's Rust Tyrannomon Ace, Black. You know, this one does Blast Digievolution, and then when Digivolving, suspend all your opponent's Digimon with DP less than or equal to this Digimon, and when an opponent's Digimon is deleted in battle, trash the top card opponent's security stack. Being able to get those free, you know, trash 2 security when you combo him with this Rusty Tyrannomon Ace can be very scary. And the fact that you also have boosting DP thresholds with most of your deck, you know, the Agumon's going to give plus 2,000. The Tyrannomon's going to give plus 2,000. Taiga doesn't give 1,000. This one gives 1,000 DP. So this thing went from 2, 4, so it's 16, 17k. It can deal with threats. And then having Quartzmon top end is always scary for a lot of players. But, you know, taking a look into this, Tyrannomon definitely has a very solid core, and as it gets more and more support, because it is a big fan favorite Digimon, we're going to see some major change-ups. Now, like I promised, I was going to use digitalgateopen.com to review some decks. So this one had Dynamon as a top and locals. So taking a look, they are playing the Leviamon because when an opponent's Digimon is deleted, trigger, draw 1. They're using it to help find pieces, which is not a bad idea, especially with the Coromon here. So at the end of the day, even this one of your, this is a memory extender, but if you have a red or yellow tamer, it becomes suspended, draw a card. Mr. Williams here basically says, when one of your Digimon with Tyrannomon in its name attacks by suspending this tamer, that Digimon may digivolve into Tyrannomon in its name or dinosaur trait, where digivolution cost reduced by 1. So this kind of combos off with your ability to draw as well. So finding pieces is always key in these kind of games. You want to be able to get your pieces as soon as possible, to be alive, to apply pressure. Speed is everything. So it's kind of cool to take a look at that. Then we do have Leviamon. Leviamon has taken front and center again, because I think at the end of the day, Purple Hybrid was just a little too fast against Levia, and it got underneath it way too quickly, so Levia could not get set up as comfortably as it used to, and then that led into the deck kind of just falling apart into the meta. I think when it faced, odds against even just like a Setcon based deck, Mother D Reaper on board was always a scary problem for this deck. 15k blocker that can stop your Levia X swinging in, your Leviamon swinging in. It didn't care, as long as they didn't kill off your tamer every single time. If you had a way of keeping your Mother D Reaper blocking, this deck had a little bit of a problem dealing with that. And again, that was something formats were seeing from time to time. So now with the decks disappearing off the format, and that's Purple Hybrid and Mother based decks, this deck gets to thrive a little bit more and breathe in and able to answer response a lot of decks. So again, I expect Leviamon to keep upticking in the coming formats just because of how powerful it is. And then we do have Royal Knights. This one's DigiGuard United online event, 16 players. This is just what you're kind of seeing from time to time. I like the Digital Emperor kind of punishes with a combination with Medieval Gallant. It really makes them have to now try to play around Medieval Gallantmon, and Emperor could easily pass you back turn. Emperor leads into just scary things, especially if they didn't digivolve up to champion. But, having Shoto in the list with no Mother is fine, because making your guys always blocker is always scary. So at the end of the day, you have a lot going for you in deck design, right? So you have Cool Boy, you have Royal Knights of the Purge, Last Guardian, all these good stuff coming forwards. And this deck is just going to be around for a good while. And if you're really confident with the list, you're going to go the extra mile, right? So just keep practicing and get a good understanding of what Royal Knights can do. And I think if you guys have this deck, play it to your heart's content, because this deck's staying around for a while. But all in all, guys, use the tools at your disposal. DigitalGateOpen.com, Digimon CG Guide, and then, none other than DigimonMeta.com. All are great tools for you guys to use for your best selves. So, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you next one. Peace.